All right. Welcome back. It's good to see y'all again. I hope everything is going well. There's been a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world lately. So, how about a little fun thing today? A little Gen X journey. But anyway, welcome back to Retro Recon. My name is Chris Perry, and it's great to be here and talk about something that is kind of fun. We'll see. Maybe you think it's fun. I know I did. So anyway, the backstory on this. I like to every now and again, scroll a bit on TikTok. I'm a fan. I like TikTok a lot. It is, really fun. It's kind of like brain candy. My algorithm and the videos that are on my timeline on TikTok are pretty cool. They're actually more of what you would call, history videos, different information, kind of crazy stuff too. There's all kinds of just little tidbits of all kind of stuff, right? So the other day, as I'm going through, I actually ran across something that just blew my mind. So it's on a guy named Patrick Swayze. So if any of you are Gen X folks, or even other people, I've mentioned Patrick Swayze in class before, various times, and even the younger people, the Gen Z folks, know Patrick Swayze. I guess really a lot of people know who he is. So you'll maybe appreciate this because this incorporates a lot of his more famous movies, or at least a few of them. And the idea here is, and the thing about it is, it connects different characters that Patrick Swayze played into basically one life. So, in other words, you have this one person that is represented in three different movies, or in this case, the one I do, four, in four different movies as different stages of that one person's life. So basically, you can see an extension each time that is the same guy. And I know it sounds crazy, but we'll see. We'll see what you think. Because the original theory that I saw had three movies in it. I added a fourth because it is one of my favorite movies, and I think it fits into the theory. So we'll see what you think, and please let me know. But Patrick Swayze, if you grew up in the 70s and 80s, or 80s especially, even into the 90s, I think Ghost was in the 90s. Everybody knows about, Ghost. I mean, that's a big one, right? I mean, you never look at making a clay bowl the same way or whatever Demi Moore was making in that movie. Anyway, so this guy was everywhere. I mean, he made a lot of really successful movies, really good movies too. Could dance, right? He even had a hit. He had a top 40 hit. I don't know how high it got, but you may remember. She's like the wind through my tree. You know that one? She's like the wind, Patrick Swayze, with a hit. I mean, dude couldn't even sing and got a hit. So, I tried to put together a song once. I wrote lyrics and had AI put music to it. It wasn't a hit, but, Swayze got a hit. So there you go. So anyway, let's get into this because I think it's a very interesting idea. And hopefully you'll think so too. We'll see. So anyway, Patrick Swayze, there he is. If you're looking at this, if you're listening, there's a picture of Patrick Swayze on the screen. So this fan theory basically says that Patrick Swayze's characters, right, are all the same person, or at least the three. Now, originally there were three. I added a fourth, but I think it fits. The ones that they originally said was Dirty Dancing, Roadhouse, and Point Break were the three movies that were the same person at different stages of their life, right? Connects these characters through the things that Swayze says in the movies, different plot points, and it creates this whole cinematic universe. It's like Marvel or something. It's this whole universe of characters that, in this particular case, it's the same guy, right? And I know you're thinking, what is this? Why am I wasting my time listening to this complete craziness? But just give me a second and see what you think. So let's start out with, of course, the OG of really awesome movies in the '80s for me. Well, it wasn't the OG, but it was one of the ones I remember. We used to write Stay Gold in annuals. An annual was the yearbook at the end. We used to call them annuals. I guess they still do. And you would get these things, and then you would sign people's, annual at the end of the year. And there was a time frame, 84, 85, maybe 83, 84, 85, right in that general area, Stay Gold. was in like everything. I could pull out one right now if I could find it, and you would see I signed it Stay Gold. Everybody signed it Stay Gold. This was totally like inspired by The Outsiders, right? Totally was. Now, here is where this theory comes in. So, Patrick Swayze was in The Outsiders. He played Daryl Curtis, known as Derry in the movie. He was the older brother of Soda Pop and Pony Boy. Everybody knows this. You've seen it. Now, there's some spoiler alerts coming up. So if you haven't seen The Outsiders or read The Amazing Book by S.E. Hinton, you need to pause or go away or something. But I'm pretty sure most of these spoilers aren't. And maybe if you're taking a test on it or you have to read it in school, you'll learn something today. Who knows? So here's the thing. All right, so Derry was the older brother. He was a fighter. He really, there was things that he did. He was in the Rumble, the whole thing. And you all know, Johnny, which this is going to be important. Johnny dies, saving some kids. He's a hero, right? He dies shortly after, saving these kids in a burning house. After, of course, Pony Boy kills the Soch and the whole nine. They have to run and all that. And then, of course, Dallas Winston, who was my spirit animal growing up. Dallas Winston was my guy. I mean, he was the one that I liked out of all these characters. But also, he dies robbing a convenience store. I don't know what that says about me, being that he was my favorite character. But, okay, I guess I was a wannabe juvenile delinquent back then or something. I don't know. The idea here is that all of this really negatively affected Daryl. So he had to get out of Oklahoma, get out of the greaser lifestyle. And after all this is said and done, the very end of the movie, you see Pony Boy actually writing down. He's starting to write the story, and it's called The Outsiders and, Stay Gold, and Stevie Wonder sings and the whole nine, right? All right, so what happens to Daryl Curtis after that? Well, I think that he went to New York and he became a dance instructor. Yeah, that's what I think. And he took on a different name because, he didn't want to be a greaser from Oklahoma if he's going to be a dance instructor. So, of course, what name to take? But Johnny Castle. So he's Johnny, named after, of course, Johnny who died saving the kids, right? Let's do it for Johnny, right? There you go. Okay, so Johnny Castle, Dirty Dancing. So now this is phase one, I will say, of the other theory. But in mine, this is really the second step in the process. So anyway, it begins with Johnny Castle. He's a charismatic dance instructor at a Catskills resort in the summer of '63, which I think my dates fit. It's close anyway. So it introduces Johnny as this smooth-talking, rough around the edges, a guy who knows how to fight, right? You see him fight. He actually gets in a fight in the movie. And the guy he's fighting, actually, he's taller than him. He's got better reach. So probably if there were odds on the fight, you wouldn't have put odds on Johnny Castle to win. But guess what? He does. So he wins the fight. So you got that carryover from The Outsiders. Now you've got him in Dirty Dancing fighting, still doing well. He has a troubled past. His troubled past is alluded to in the story. And what else can you find in a troubled past than a greaser in Oklahoma? Kind of makes sense, doesn't it? All right, so he's got this troubled past, and he has this moment. He faces a turning point in his life after his romance with Baby, which, all right, let me tell you this. All right, so he gets into this, back and forth with the father at first. And then, of course, later the father is like cool with him. But let me just tell you something from my experience as a father of a teenage girl. If some dude, Patrick Swayze or otherwise, had come to me and my daughter was sitting at the table and he says to me, nobody puts Baby in a corner, which this is the part everybody points to, right? Nobody puts Baby in a corner and the girls are supposed to swoon, and it's this big thing. Well, I'll tell you this. I would have dropped Patrick Swayze right where he stood on that one. There's no doubt about it. You're not going to come over. Anyway, but it worked out for him. All right, so basically he has this big moment at the end. He gets fired from the resort, but where he drives off and what he's driving in the movie is going to be a really big point here. He's driving a 57 Chevy. It's a 1957 Chevrolet Bel Air. That's what he's driving. And this car will become a key detail in some other chapters here. So this is a big deal. So, all right. So all this goes down in New York in the Catskills. It doesn't end great, but he does leave. So he ends up leaving after that. You see him leave, and that's the end of it. I think he leaves at least. Anyway, so the next thing is, where's he going to go next? Well, he pops up yet again, and he changes his name. He leaves the Catskills, and Johnny needs a new life and a new identity. He travels the country. He can already fight. We've seen it. We've seen it in Oklahoma. We saw it in the Catskills. He is, fighting all the time, it seems like. So guess what? He becomes a bouncer, or a cooler, as they call it in the movie Roadhouse. He is now Dalton, right? I mean, and honestly, if we're like ranking the movies that Patrick Swayze was in, this one is up there. I mean, this was a pretty good one. I mean, Dalton, the Roadhouse, a great movie. So good, they actually did a remake of this movie. I think it was a decent remake. It's not as good as the original, because how can you beat, Patrick Swayze, Sam Elliott, for goodness sakes, Ben Gazzara is in this. And Brad Wesley is a really, really effective bad guy in this movie, right? Terry Funk from wrestling was in this movie as well. Anyway, great movie. And you've got Dalton, who they always say, man, I thought you'd be bigger, right? That's the thing. And if you think back to when he was fighting earlier, everybody's always bigger than him, right? For the most part. So here you have this moment, changes his name to Dalton and becomes the best cooler in the business. He's the guy, right? And they show him, he's kind of developed this philosophical mindset. He's becoming one with not only nature, but, himself. He's starting to understand, his journey in this world at this point. So he's come a long way, man. Come from Oklahoma, going to the Catskills. He's a dance instructor. And in this, you can see that same, he moves like he's dancing, right? He kind of moves like that. Now, of course, if you've seen the movie, this thing ends pretty badly. I always hated what happened to his car, because he had such a cool car. And he knew they were going to tear his car up, so he got a beater car for them to, cut his tires and all that stuff. But he had this cool car in this movie, and at the end of it, it's on fire going through the, when he fights the guy and he kills the other guy who's supposed to be the, really tough guy, anyway. So it ends really bad. I mean, Brad Wesley pushes him to the edge of his sanity almost, right? So he is trying to be, more of a spiritual person and wants to get out of the life. His best friend, Wade Garrett, dies, played unbelievably by Sam Elliott. Anything Sam Elliott is great anyway. But so he has to change. So after this section of his life, right, Dalton is looking for a more spiritual and peaceful existence. He doesn't want to be, in any kind of thing that could be considered like a crime-ridden or a life of crime, right? He wants to be, cool, man. Everything's got to be copacetic, right? So that's the idea. So what's he going to do? Well, guess what? Ha! He even changes his name. His name now is Bodhi, which is a takeoff of something called Bodhisattva, or I'm saying that wrong probably. But that's a Buddhism thing. So he seeks this new purpose, right? And he discovers a new philosophy based on extreme sports, dislike for corporate life, and surfing, man. And that's where you get up to Point Break, right? So this new name, philosophy, he adopts the name Bodhi, a derivative of a bodhisattva, Sanskrit term for the enlightened being. So after all this he's been through, now he is enlightened. He's at his, this is the crescendo of the story. His, beliefs revolve around living life to the fullest and rejecting all the constraints of the man, right? And you see this in the movie. If you've seen Point Break, the original Point Break, not that crap remake, but the original Point Break is, this is such a good movie. All right, so side story. I used to work in a video store. And, I know Quentin Tarantino worked in a video store and he ended up being a famous director. I worked in a video store and didn't. So, but the idea is that I love movies. To this day, I love movies. I love watching movies and I love, kind of dissecting them. and really, trying to understand what they're about. And, what was the director going for here? It's like reading a book. It's the same kind of thing to me. So you have this movie that I thought was so well done, and I used to recommend it at Video Express. I used to recommend that people would rent it and go see it. And you've got Patrick Swayze, you got Keanu Reeves, Gary Busey, great turn, right? If you've ever heard, get me two, Utah, get me two meatball sandwiches. That's a reference. If you know the movie, you know that one. Anyway, so all this goes down, and he basically has this moment where you sort of have all this thing connected. Now, Bodie tells Johnny there's a particular memory that reminds him of his 57 Chevy he used to own. The 57 Chevy, of course, is the car that started way back in Dirty Dancing, right? That's where the car is. So this whole car, it makes the connection through the whole thing. So now you've got this entire journey that comes through from The Outsiders to Dirty Dancing to Roadhouse to Point Break. And the idea, according to the fan theory, is that each one of these was different stages of this person's life, right? The time frames fit. You have the people that you wonder what happened to them afterwards. It's kind of one of these wonderful Gen X stories that, you sit and think, and wow, this was, pretty cool, right? The whole thing. So maybe there's something to it. I don't know. Anyway, it's one of those things. Fans will come up with different things, and they will try to put these theories out there. It's kind of fun. It's something to think about. Whether you think it is true or not is, that remains to be seen. But it's an idea. The only one that's missing, though, Oh, first, before I get into that, let's go deeper into the idea of bodhisattva, which I'm saying that wrong. My Southern English, again, will only take me so far. But this is a person who has attained or is striving towards bodhi. It's an awakening, enlightenment, or Buddhahood. I guess that's, pretty important in that. If you reach Buddhahood, I mean, that's pretty cool. And the whole idea of that is, this sort of reincarnation kind of idea. So you're reinventing yourself in each movie, I guess. Anyway, so it specifically refers to a person who forgoes or delays personal nirvana or bodhi in order to compassionately help other individuals reach Buddhahood. So he goes through these different journeys, these different hero journeys to help other people is the idea. I don't know. Maybe that is true. If you look at it, I mean, Derry, you could say he helps Ponyboy in that relationship at the end there, right? Maybe. If you're looking at Dirty Dancing, then it's Baby. Definitely helps Baby. In Roadhouse, heck, he helps the whole town, really, so he gets rid of everybody. And in Point Break, I don't know. All right, so in Point Break, he turns to a life of crime. But I think that who he's really helping in Point Break is Keanu Reeves' character, right? Johnny Utah. Because Johnny Utah, at the end of the movie, you see he kind of takes the reins and moves on after he allows Bodie to go back out to catch that wave, and then we assume something bad happened, but we don't know for sure. Keanu Reeves throws his badge into the water, and you have this moment like he's taking the reins now of this. He's not gonna take crap off the man no more or whatever. So maybe that's who he was helping for him to realize his own thing. Now, all right. So the one we're missing, and the one movie that I wish was in this theory, and maybe we can figure out a way to get it in there, is Red Dawn. Because Red Dawn, I'm telling you, this one, I mean, not that crap remake. I know they've remade this movie, but it's not as good as the original. This movie's amazing. And you see a connection here? Does anybody? Because you've got Patrick Swayze in it. You've also got the baby, right? Jennifer Grey, who played Baby, is in this movie, right? And then right in the back, if you see this picture or you know who's in it, you've got C. Thomas Howell, who played Ponyboy, is also in this movie. You see Charlie Sheen is in this movie as well. This is before the Tiger's Blood. Charlie Sheen, I guess. It was like an all-star cast of people. you've got Michael J. Fox's mother from Back to the Future, Leah Thompson, is also in this movie. So it was a great movie, bottom line. But also, if we could put this one somehow in there, that would make a lot of sense, right? Because of the people that are in the movie and the fact that, it's got to be connected somehow, right, man? I don't know. But they all die in this, I think. I think they do. I can't even remember. I think that's right. Anyway, great movie, Red Dawn. My favorite scene from this movie is when C. Thomas Howell, he basically knows he's going to die, and he starts shooting at this helicopter, I think it was, and starts yelling, "Wolverines!" That whole thing. Anyway, that's the part that I always remember. And the music that they played was really awesome. So that's the story. That's the idea of this Patrick Swayze fan theory, right? It incorporates Gen X. It incorporates movies. Patrick Swayze, who unfortunately, of course, is his anniversary of his death coming up on September the 14th. Actually, at the time that I'm recording this is after September the 14th. But so, yeah, I don't know. It sounds pretty cool. And it took me down memory lane, when they were explaining it. You run across these videos. This is why the internet is wonderful to me. The internet is a great place. It's pretty cool because you get some information like this and you can look at it and say, hey, all right, maybe so. I don't mind that. Plus the nostalgia involved in these movies, you can't get much better than those four, right? You have The Outsiders. You have Dirty Dancing, which a lot of people love, right? Dirty Dancing. Roadhouse. Growing up, Roadhouse on HBO late at night. Perfect. I mean, Roadhouse, that and Lethal Weapon were the movies that, I didn't have HBO. We had Showtime, I think, but if you ever got a chance to get HBO, you may have been like me and got one of those boxes. It's probably illegal cable, so I think the statute of limitations are over on that, but we may or may not have had illegal cable back in the day. But anyway, so you got one of these boxes that picked up all the channels, right? And you was able to watch HBO when you didn't have it. And, that was a cool thing to watch, some movies like that. And Def Comedy Jam, that was a good one. Anyway, so that's enough of that. But the idea, these movies were really, really great. You had Roadhouse, and then, of course, Point Break, top movie. This was early 90s, 90, 91, somewhere in there. At the time was this, not as successful as they thought it was going to be, turned into a cult classic. People still quote that movie today. I thought Point Break was great. I really, really did. So, and then I mentioned, of course, Red Dawn, which, you can't beat that. Anyway, let me know if you think this is at all possible, or you have maybe a fan theory of your own. So I hope you've enjoyed that. Maybe it distracted you from anything, crazy going on in the world. So have a fantastic day.